an award-winning cameraman. He's perhaps the world's greatest Steadicam operator. And if you don't know what a Steadicam is, you saw it all over there where he's running down the hall and down the steps, risking his life with that rig on. Maybe you can explain what the Steadicam is.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming on this lovely, beautiful night. Yeah, the Steadicam, as you saw, what it is like, you see a lot of movies these days, and it's all handheld and shaky, and it could be, a little nauseous sometimes. So what the Steadicam does is it takes the vibrations out from all that. The arm absorbs all the shock, so I can go up, like you saw, stairs and stuff like that, and it keeps the camera perfectly still and basically floaty. So it's a great feel. It's a great thing, putting dolly track down and stuff. You can do a lot more shots than you can do on a conventional dolly or even handheld if it's just not called for us.
And that particular reel, and we have, there's tons and tons of footage like that, was from the movie J. Edgar Clint's last release that he directed. And that movie won Stephen an award from his colleagues in the Society of Camera Operators for his Steadicam work. And I write about it in the book. I've written about it in magazine articles. I wrote a magazine article about that movie. Maybe why don't you tell us a couple of the challenges from J. Edgar and why they were kind enough to give you an award?
Well, anytime you do a period film, it's tough on everybody because you've got to, have it in the period of the 1900s and 20s and stuff like that. So obviously filming, in modern day times, you've got to be very careful of what's around you. They didn't have yellow lines back then. It was white lines. So we had to paint a lot of street lines and stuff back to white. That's what they had back then. So as a cameraman, you've got to be aware of all that and what doesn't fit in the period and stuff like that. A couple of times we had trolley tracks and stuff for the streetcars and things, and those have to be digitally created now because there's no street, trolley tracks here and stuff. So it becomes more of a challenge for everybody on the film, but also in the visual medium that you really have to watch for. You don't take the audience out of the period because there's so much modern stuff, satellite dishes and things like that. So it becomes a little stronger challenge for that. The hair and makeup has to look right, the wardrobe and all that. So it brings everybody's A game up. But in the visual medium, cinematographer and camera, you're really watching for all of that because you got to just make sure that everything is true and correct for that period. And then I was very fortunate to get nominated by my peers for the film and then ending up winning. And it was a great night because my growing up as a kid in Canada, my dream was to meet Clint Eastwood one day. That's all it was. Like, as your fans are, just to meet him, get an autograph, and I'm good, get a poster signed. And then getting to work with him for 18 years has been like a dream come true. And that same night, I got to give Clint Eastwood a Lifetime Achievement Award from our society, and they were asking Angelina Jolie and Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio, everybody to give him the award, and none of them were available because it was award season in February. No one was available and stuff. So they turned to me and they said, "Well, why don't you?" And I said, "Well, who am I?" And they said, "Well, you've been with him for almost 20 years. You know him better than anybody." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess so." So that was a dream come true of giving my boyhood idol an award and then getting one from him at the end of the night. So it was really, one of those surreal moments in my career and my life. So.
Well, speaking of you and your boyhood idol, it's my understanding, and Clint Eastwood told me very directly, and it's in the book, he referred to you as his right arm. And that struck me, and I discussed it a bit in the book. He said that you and your predecessor, Jack Green, at one point, who later became Clint's cinematographer and, in fact, hired this guy onto the crew, he said that both of you guys are like his right arm. And in studying the way Clint Eastwood works on the set, he's collaborating constantly with his camera operator, in addition to everyone else, not to the exclusion of everyone else, in addition to. And that is kind of unusual. On other sets, there's often a hierarchy. The director talks to the cinematographer talks to the operators, etc. Yeah. Not there. You and Clint work very closely together. Can you explain why Clint does that? How the product benefits from the way you guys work together?
Yeah, it's a great question because it is an unusual situation. Usually the director works a lot more closely with the cinematographer, but because I've been the one constant in the last 18 years, Clint and I have this it's like an old married couple. We don't have to talk to each other as much, and just things happen. We got this simpatico going, and it's that I think is because Clint is a man of few words, so he doesn't like to really talk too much about things. So I know what he likes, and we're cutting out the middleman basically. Like Tom Stern is director of photography now, and basically he listens to what we're saying, and then he just lights the shot, and then Clint and I both work out the choreography of the shots and working with actors. Clint is so great because he's, you know, he's got no ego, he's got no insecurity. He just says, Steve, go, you know, do your thing. And it's great. I get to work with the actors real closely, which is what I love to do. And it's just a wonderful feeling because on most movies, you don't get to do all that. The director is usually, you know, that's the leader, and then he or she is just telling you what to do constantly. And then, you know, you kind of don't feel as creative as you normally get to do. And then, but with Clint, working with him, it becomes just great creative process. And he involves everybody in that too. If you have a good idea for a shot or to make the film better, he'll listen to it, you know, and he jokes. He says, well, I'm going to get the credit in the end anyway, so, you know. It's true, yeah.
It is true. But you know, it's funny because at the heart of why I wrote this book, the notion, the line that Clint uses is, it's an ensemble, not an auteur. And so much of what you see in Hollywood, it's about the filmmaker. I think, I was never told this directly, but I believe the reason that Clint agreed to this project and let me do this book and put zero restrictions on it was because it would show the ensemble, it would show the team, it would show the collaboration. And who better than you to comment on how unusual the way you guys work, the point you just raised, how unusual that is. You work on a lot of pictures, you're on another picture now for somebody else. Why is that unusual in Hollywood, and how is it a distinction from how Clint Eastwood works as compared to how it typically runs in most sets?
Right. Well, again, it's another unusual thing, and I wish everybody could come to one of his sets, because every time I'm on somebody else's movie, and it's usually a disaster, and there's yelling and screaming and everything, not all the time, but it does happen a lot, and it's just so peaceful on his sets. And I think it all comes down from leadership. And again, in your book, you talk about that, how he just surrounds himself with really good people, and he trusts them to do their job. And that's the key to good leadership. You know, you just trust the people around you, and just, you know, don't feel insecure. You know the people, and you're watching them, and you see that they're doing a good job, and you just go, let it happen. And the whole creative process just boils that way. But I find in a lot of filmmaking, there is that, the pyramid thing right at the top, and they just feel like everybody just falls off after that. And with Clint, it's, again, like you say, it's a collaboration, and that's what you need. You need to surround yourself with really good people that you can trust. And when I work on other films, it doesn't seem to have that. There seems to be a little discord between upper management and the crew and the people around you, and there seems to be this chaos and this miscommunication and all that. So that, to me, is one of the biggest things I would love when I work on somebody else's film, is say, just come one day on the set and see. And everybody that does come one day on the set just goes, oh my gosh, it's just like incredibly well-run, oiled machine where everybody's just quiet, there's no yelling and screaming, there's no chaos. And I still don't even know how we do it all the time. It's just like, you know, you're making these big period films and stuff where just hundreds of extras and things, and it just becomes this, everybody's just synced together, and it just happens. And again, it just comes down from him. He's just a great leader that doesn't micromanage, you know.
Well, now, if they don't know, they can read the book, too.
Exactly, yes, exactly.
But I remember being on the set of Hereafter in the soundstage over Warner Brothers, a beautiful set built by Clint's production designer, Jim Murakami, to represent the Federal Building where the FBI was headquartered in the era of J. Edgar Hoover. And I remember there was a sequence where a young J. Edgar Hoover, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, was going to walk down the hallway and basically dress down all the agents that he had inherited from the previous regime, which were, in his opinion, not up to Hoyle. So they originally had the agents lined up all the way down the hall, and the shot wasn't really working. And I have a memory, I meant to ask you about this then, I don't think I ever did. You and Clint and Tom Stern and you know, having a little bit of a chat, and boom, within a few minutes, you know, there were two parallel lines, and your Steadicam was following Leonardo DiCaprio around and through it. Maybe you can sort of explain, you know, that wasn't something that was blocked out, or they committed to it, or pre-visualized it. How is it that, you know, you guys got that shot, and just generally how Clint is willing to be open-minded about things and not lock himself into a shot or map it all out?
That's another good question. Sometimes we call it happy accidents, because sometimes what happened is we had so many guys, and the hallway would have just been forever. We did have a really beautifully long hallway, but it would just taken forever to tell the story. And again, he's a man of few words. He said, let's tell the story a little quicker. Let's split it in 2 lines. You don't have to go as far. And it just all happens. So that's how his thinking is. It's just like people want to see a story. Like when you're reading a book, you just want to get to it. You just want to read page after page. That's what he feels like a movie is. It's just like people want to be entertained constantly and follow a story and not have things slow down, look at your watch and text your friends, that kind of stuff. It's basically you just want to keep the story going. And that's the one thing I've learned from him. He's very aware of that. He's got to keep the story going. He knows this is the scene we're doing, what you were mentioning about the FBI agents, is 12 seconds in the movie or whatever, maybe 20 seconds, that he doesn't need to walk all the way down this thing. It's going to take 50 seconds. So it's like, just make it shorter, put the guys on 2 sides. You see just as many men in the shot. And it actually visually looked way better too. So all that stuff just comes like, it's like we just walk around and we figure it out. And then all of a sudden guys are moving and things are happening. It's just like building blocks, like a puzzle, and it just happens. And to answer part of your question too, is a lot of stuff Clint does prepare for and a lot of stuff he doesn't. And which I love, and what he calls it's an organic feel to filmmaking, because sometimes we'll shoot, not all, sometimes, all the time, we shoot the rehearsals, which very rarely happens in big movies. And the reason for that is just you never know what's going to happen. Like the actors aren't really sure where they're going to go or what they're going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. My focus puller, no one seems to really know, but sometimes out of that organized chaos, you get some amazing magic. And in J. Edgar, you look at such a nice, proper film like that, there's a lot of stuff we did. We had no idea we were going to do that. And then at the end, we go, wow, that was really good. Let's move on. There's no reason to do another one. And if you had planned it all, it might have been too rigid or too static. It might not have had that, lack of a better word, organic feel. And that's how he likes to flow. And he says, why waste it? If we did a rehearsal and I didn't film it and it was perfect, he would just be so devastated. So.
Well, when you walked in, Liz was explaining the handheld monitor situation and how Clint prefers that to constantly gazing through your lens. Am I correct? You are the arbiter of focus on a Clint Eastwood movie? Well,
there's a guy that's all he does. I know we have our cameras and they're all automatic focus. Billy Coe is a wonderful focus puller, and he's my eyes basically.
But it's the two of you who tell them if it's in focus.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. What I do is I see the focus. So if it's off a little bit, usually Bill can tell me. He says, I missed him when he was coming through the door or something like that. Yeah. But I can also see that, and then we'll collaborate and tell Clint, and Clint will go, well, what point did you lose focus, or was the shot not good? And we'll tell him. He goes, it's fine, we won't use it. And sure enough, I'll see it in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
So it always does that. There's a scene in J. Edgar where we're coming into the Library of Congress, this beautiful building, and it's the low shot where they come in, and this gorgeous ceiling. And the first take I did, I tilted too much, and I had a little bump in it. I was like, can we do another one? Yeah, sure. Of course, when I go see the premiere, what's the first shot is this little bump, and I'm like, So, that stuff happens, but, for some reason, it was performance or lighting or something happened that's the shot he needed in the movie. And,
well, it's funny because, we're not talking about editing right now, but I did learn, and there's a whole section on editing, that Clint can and will and does tolerate imperfections if he feels that the performance is perfect from his point of view. I guess we've seen that a few times. I was talked to about audio, something, or a little bump like you were talking about. Have there been times when you were positive that they were going to, like you were just referring to, pick something else, and Clint went with the performance and didn't care that you had a bump in it?
Yeah, it's a few times. I don't have any specifics, to be honest with you, but I think almost every movie I do with him, there's a shot in there that I just go, I wish I didn't use that, or he promised me he wouldn't. But there is that issue. It's a great performance, and I think the audience can go, there's a little bump in the shot, or it's a lot of focus. They can deal with it, because if you're riveted into the film, you won't notice that. And people ask me that all the time. They say, you're a cameraman. When you go see other movies, you watch all the camera work and stuff? And I go, just like you guys, if it's a really good movie, I don't. I watch the movie, I get just sucked right into it. At the end, it's just, I'm so thrilled. I spent 2 great hours. Or the opposite. If it's a really bad movie and I just wasted 2 hours, I wasted $15, or $100 on popcorn, So it's that, so it's that. I get sucked into a movie, and that's what Clint does. He's a really good storyteller, and he's aware of that, is that the audience they're dedicating 2 hours of their life to him and his movie, though he wants to entertain him and make it really good. And those little missteps once in a while, you don't really know. I notice them because, I know exactly where they're going to come, so I'm anticipating them with dread.
Well, speaking of bumps and missteps, you told me, I believe, you were actually relieved when they went to the handheld monitor because you and Clint have whacked heads a few times.
Yeah, that was the one reason. Like, you know, on most movies, there's video assist. So there's this whole village of people with monitors, and they're looking at the image, and they're seeing what I'm doing and stuff. But Clint doesn't believe in that. He thinks it's going to slow down the process because everyone's going to go look. So what happened is he would have to look through the camera, and sometimes he would just like tap my shoulder and I'd move away and I'd know he's coming. But sometimes he would just, for some reason, start leaning in as I was coming at this. So we would literally clock our heads, you know. It's like, we had no bleeding, but, you know, it was like every once in a while there would be a bruise. So I think he got a little frustrated with that. And then eventually, thanks to Liz, we came up with this really great system, which is now used by a lot of people, where he has vision here. He doesn't have to have it recorded like they do nowadays. And it's just very easy. But the funny thing is, he's still next to the camera all the time. He could be 100 feet away and just watching it and seeing what we're doing. But as you saw in some of the shots, he's running with me doing Steadicam. You know, there's a wonderful 80-year-old man just running around everywhere. It's incredible. And it's wonderful to see him, that enthusiasm, because he gets just as excited as I do. And I notice sometimes if I'm doing like a panning shot or whatever, he's watching it, but I watch him, I look over and I see him doing the same thing. He's panning, but he doesn't have to because he's watching me do it, but he just sees it. Or if I'm tilting up, he does this, and it's just, it's really, yeah. Like, he's in that world, and it's great to see that, you know, and it's just, it's infectious. You just love the man because of how he loves cinema. You know, obviously he doesn't have to keep making movies and all that, but he just loves the process of making movies. And that's why this book is so great, because you get into his head and you get to see why he loves it and why he surrounds himself with such, you know, great people to make the movies.
So we can say you are one of the people in this world who actually have knocked heads with Clint Eastwood.
Yes, exactly. Yes, several times. Yeah.
Well, the other story that I was told, I think it was Matt Damon, when we interviewed him, it was the set of Hereafter, but he was talking about the previous film, Invictus. And on Invictus, he talked to me, because Matt, of course, wants to be a director. I think he's about to launch a project or something like that. He talked to me about how he was amazed. You guys did what they call some pickup shots, I guess, of the stadium, the rugby stadium.
Oh, yeah, on Invictus, yeah.
And he was amazed because you were supposed to get Mandela, played by Morgan Freeman, for a second, and then go all over the stage. And he said that they had like a day's worth of pickup shots, and you got it in like 2 minutes just running along. I mean, I don't know if you remember the specific reference, but... Yeah,
I do. I remember that we just kept the camera rolling. And again, on most movies, you've got specific shots to do. Like, you know, we get a shot of this pan in the book and the people in here and stuff. And each one is a separate shot because that's how it's going to be cut in the movie. But with Clint, it's just like, roll the camera, and I have the Steadicam on, and I'm literally just running around doing, I get a shot of the monitor, I get a shot of there, I get a shot of Michael, I'll run over and get you, I'll get you. And then in the movie, it's all cut up into different spots and turn around. But I remember in the field in Invictus, there was this huge long lineup where Mandela was there and all the players on it, and I had to get a shot of this, and he says, well, you got to get around the other side. So I like literally ran, the camera's still rolling, go on the other side and get the same over the shoulder. And that just never happens in filmmaking. It just doesn't. But with Clint, it's so efficient and it makes sense, you know, and it's like, it's stuff I would just love to tell a director, like tap him on the shoulder, you know, I could do this, but it just doesn't happen that way. No one else does that. So that's what's the beauty of the inside look on the way he works, is just like, it's just brilliant thinking. And, you know, he's a businessman too. And it's like, the longer I stay out here, the more it's costing everything. And it's just like, get all those shots, I'll put them in the movie the way I want to put them in, you know, and it's a great way of doing it. I don't know any, you know, I've been in this business over 25 years and I've never, ever seen anybody do anything like that, you know.
Well, that picture in Invictus, you're doing sports and, you know, very complicated movie to film. Then you did, you know, the 2 war pictures and all that. You guys have been in some very rugged, grueling environments, that sort of a thing. Maybe you could just tell folks real quick what Clint Eastwood is like on location. You know, like you referred to earlier, the hierarchy. You know, if you guys got to pick up a bunch of equipment and you're in the mud and all this, that, and the other, is Clint off, you know, having a buffet somewhere, or is he part of the crew?
No, that's a great question, and that's why I'm very proud of this, is that he's part of the crew. If it's raining, we're filming outside, he's not under a tent with, you know, umbrellas and heaters and stuff. He is out there with us. He's totally right next to the camera. It's pouring, we're making movie rain, whatever. He is out there with us, and that's the beauty. I have one story when on Flags of Our Fathers, we shot in Iceland, part of it, and we did all this base stuff at the bottom. Then we had to climb the actual, not the actual mountain, but the mountain that we were resembling for Mount, what's the name of the? Huh? but the actual mountain, Suribachi.
Suribachi.
Yeah. And we had to climb it. So we're in Iceland, and we climbed this. It's a 600-foot climb, pretty much straight up. And they had these ropes at a certain point where it got a little too steep, and to help us get to the top. Some of the equipment was helicoptered. They offered Clint, you know, we can helicopter you right to the top. He said, oh, climb up. And Clint had this in his hand, and he walked up this mountain, and he bypassed all the ropes that were there to help the crew. And I was right behind him, and I was like, oh, Dad, I want to grab this rope. And he never touched it once, and he's just like a mountain goat, just going all the way up. I swear to God, it's a true story. And I was like, use the rope. I want to use the rope. But I figured if he can't use the rope, I'm not going to use the rope. Yeah, right. So that's a true story. I was like, this is incredible. And he did. He made it all the way to the top. You know, we both collapsed when we got up there, but it was an amazing to see him, and that's his belief. You know, it's just like, I'm there, the crew's got to climb this mountain, I'm climbing this mountain too. Same on Invictus. He was right there on that rugby field. We were all just getting, you know, these guys were unbelievable professional athletes and actors mixed together, and they were just running around, and these guys were just massive, and we got knocked over a few times, but you know, Clint's right out there running with us and stuff, and just, again, getting excited, and hey, come over here, Steve, get this shot. You know, it's just great. He's just right in there, and that's what I love, because I see it in other movies. I see everybody in the video village, and the tent is nice and covered, and they've got their Starbucks cappuccinos, and we're out there just getting drenched and wet and cold. And the crew sees that. The crew feels that, you know? And it's like with Clint, he's out there, he's getting soaked, and he's just with you, and we just go, you'll do anything for the man. And that, to me, is great leadership, you know?
Well, and that's one of the themes in the book, and that's why I asked the question, because it's not just to show off to folks. There is a method, there's a strategy, there's a leadership quality there that if he does it, he'll get more out of you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like, I don't get directors and people like that yell and scream at the crew to try and intimidate them. And to me, that doesn't work. You know, I just don't think that works. And there's a lot of big famous directors and big names out there that I've heard the stories about, and I've been involved in a couple where I'm getting abused all day long. I don't want to help this person out. I don't want to give him an extra 10% because they're yelling at me and demeaning everybody. I'm like, it's not worth it. But with Clint's, exactly. You would just do anything for him to make his film better because he respects the process and he respects you. And, you know, anybody wants that. In any workplace, you want that. You want to feel like you're respected and you're appreciated for what you do.
And you joined the crew on Bridges in Madison County?
That was my first film, yeah.
You were the primary camera operator?
Yeah, camera and Steadicam, and that was, you know, another dream come true. It goes back to the whole, I just want to meet him like a fan. I just want to get an autograph from the guy, and you know, I'm standing in a cornfield in Iowa meeting my boyhood idol. Well, backstory slightly. When I was a kid growing up, I had a dog named Clint. 16 years, yeah, that's a true story. Greatest dog in the world. So dreams do come. Yeah, dreams do come. I mean, it is that. I know it kind of sounds sappy, but you know, I had posters on the wall of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Dirty Harry. But it's true. I had a dog named Clint because he was my idol. And I've worked with, you know, Marlon Brando and Pacino and De Niro and all these great actors. A lot of respect for them, but they didn't thrill me like Clint did. So I'm in this cornfield in Iowa meeting my boyhood idol, just blabbing on about how happy I am to be here and all that. And I'm saying, Mr. Eastwood, thank you so much for this experience. It's so great. And he just stops me in midway. First thing he says to me, he goes, call me Clint. And it was just like this great moment of like, wow, you know. So yeah, it is dreams come true and beyond. Like I said, I just wanted to meet him. And then 18 years later, I'm still working with him. So it's you know, it's great. And here I am talking to all you guys. So this is kind of cool too.
There's one shot I wanted to ask you about. We actually have it. Can we put on the Mystic River clip?
Oh, cool.
I consider this to be, you know, one of the most dramatic and amazing sequences I've ever seen in a feature film in terms of the cinematography and the technical part and the acting and everything all coming together to like slug you in the gut.
Yeah,
basically. So I thought maybe we take a quick look at it. Maybe take them a second to cue it up, and then I can ask you about shooting it because you were, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, this was like our 10th film together or something like that, maybe 6, 8, something like that.
Something
yeah,
like
yeah.
That. Let's just stay. So here's the clip. So in that scene, I mean, if you're a parent, you know, he's just discovered his daughter has been murdered and was found in the pit there. I have a couple things I want to say about that scene, but the first question for you, the crane shot, the rising up, I told Clint Eastwood that I thought he was trying to get us away from this guy's pain, that it was just too much, and Sean obviously won an Academy Award for acting like that. Was that scripted and talked about in advance? Was it figured out there on site in Boston? How did that work?
Well, we had the crane there to do that other shot of her in the pit and then tilting up to see the city of Boston and all that. And it was kind of one of these things, well, it's right there, and then we did all that bottom ground stuff was all Steadicam, me running around and stuff like that. And then it was like, well, throw the camera up there and let's see what we get. But I think Clint had that shot in mind because you just get on that set and you see all these cops surrounding this guy and trying to hold him. It just feels like you want that bird's eye view, that Busby Berkeley thing, just looking straight down. And it just started, Clint just get up there and he goes, let's just shoot it. I didn't know where we're going to end up or how it was going to go, and we just did. We just did this great pull up, and I believe I'm not 100% sure, but it's probably the one take we did. Because Sean was just obviously so distraught and, screaming and save his voice and all that. So it was literally, well, let's just shoot and see what happens. And I'm pretty positive that was the one take that we did on that. And again, Clint just calls up, how was it? Oh, great, all right, move on,
Well, and I asked Sean Penn about that. It's in the book. I forget the chapter numbers. It's the chapter about acting called Water in the Flower. We kind of open the chapter with it. And there's a picture of Sean there being held down by the policeman. And he was very proud to say it was probably some of the finest acting, maybe the finest acting he's ever done. He won the award for it. But he made a very interesting point to me, which is Clint Eastwood, as an actor himself, knew that a good actor like Sean Penn was going to have to freak out to film that sequence. So by freak out, we mean he was going to have to become violent. I mean, he did, the character discovers the loss of his daughter. And he said that he knew, Sean Penn said he knew he was going to a place that was pretty nasty, and he was very concerned prior to filming that he might hurt one of those extras, one of the actors play the police officers. And according to the story, he told me he went to Clint Eastwood, told him, started to tell him that he was worried about the scene and that it might get a little violent, and Clint kind of cut him off and said, don't worry about it. And Sean Penn at first was a bit taken aback because, does he understand what I'm saying? But he later on, upon reflection, realized that Clint Eastwood was an actor and knew exactly what he was going to have to go through to play the scene properly. So as a consequence, Clint Eastwood had already prearranged to have 3-4 times as many extras there to play policemen as the original plan had called for. I think some of them were off-duty policemen.
Off-duty policemen. I think we had 1 or 2 stunt guys in there too, right, just to really be. And I remember him telling the guys, "Say, hold on to him, don't let him go." And right, most movies, the actors are like, "Oh, I'm going to hold on to you, yeah." Right. But they were just grabbing him, and and then Sean wanted that. Everybody wanted that because that's the true raw emotion. And that's, to me, is when you see movies and you see these things that are being too safe or whatever. It just never works, But that it just was real and raw, and exactly. And that's again Clint's foresight. He just looks for it. He goes, "I know the scene's coming up. I'm gonna need this," and it's like he works really well. And again with Sean, goes away from Clint going, well, he didn't really answer my question, but then he goes and does it, and he realizes that it's already been thought out, and it's there, and it's like...
Yeah, point being, he knew it before Sean told him. He knew what was necessary.
Exactly.
And it was taken care of, and it was incredibly effective in
that
film.
Yeah, I love that shot. It's one of my favorite shots, and probably one of my favorite movies that I've done with Clint.
The other clip I wanted to show was from Bridges in Madison County, which I guess you said was your first film with Clint.
Mm-hmm.
And the setup is, it's quite a long scene, so we won't show it all, but we'll just give you the flavor of it. Maybe you can give us your memory of it. If you remember the film, I don't know if you saw it, but they're having Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep are having a candlelit dinner. And it's very, it's set up to be very romantic, but it also is the end of their relationship. It's dawning on her that their illicit affair is not going to work out, and that she's not going to leave her husband, and all this, that, and the other, and she's got to relay that to him. It's very, very complicated movie, and Meryl Streep had claimed that you guys shot a lot of close-ups during the course of it. And if you watch it, tell me if you see very many close-ups.
Right.
Forbid.
Yes.
But I mainly want to show the dinner scene, and I don't believe I saw any real close-ups on one actor or the other.
No.
What happened to all your beautiful close-ups?
Well, I remember doing that scene, and we shot that shot first, I think, and then we did all the normal coverage, close-ups over the shoulders and all that, and all went well and all that. And I remember exact same reaction. It was like, went to see the film in the theater like everyone else and just went, wow, he didn't use anything. And it's just like how many movies you see nowadays that would last a 5-minute shot in one shot. In the old days, that's what they did. It was beautiful. You had two actors in the frame together and you're watching them and you're listening and you're getting drawn into it by their performance. You know, nowadays everyone's, you know, cut, blah, blah, blah. So that was a surprise to me too, because we had done all that coverage and it had, you know, been all thought out. But when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, it works, you know. It's a great emotional story and it's like, why chop it all up and, you know.
Well, you weren't the only one surprised. Meryl Streep was surprised also. They brought the film to, I think she was making her next movie in Connecticut. They brought it to her, they screened it for her, and she was very surprised, according to her memory and the memory of the editor, your colleague Joel Cox, about the missing close-ups. And what she later came to realize, and what Joel Cox told me and what Clint Eastwood told me, is the reason was he gets the coverage in case he wants to use it. But the whole point of the scene was that their relationship was coming to an end. He wanted to show separation between them. He had a very strategic, creative reason why he did not want that. He didn't tell anyone about it much beyond him and his editor.
Yeah.
But they worked that out. And so some of Steven's greatest work perhaps wasn't in that particular scene, although he's had plenty of chances since. And also, I might add, as an aside, Meryl Streep felt that some of Clint Eastwood's best acting work was chucked out of the scene by Clint Eastwood, and the reason being was he had his creative reason. He wasn't going to deviate from it. He wanted the film to be about her character, not his, and so you know you can see there's very strategic things, and we talk about them in the book where people have stereotyped. Well, he shoots only one take, you know. Some people have said, oh, that's lazy filmmaking or whatever. Well, no, it's specific reason behind it, and as a matter of fact, the people who he works with, like Meryl Streep, who's one of the greatest actresses ever lived, she's used to asking for plenty of other takes. She got it. Sean Penn got it. They all get it. Morgan Freeman and Gene Hackman were among his biggest cheerleaders. There's a particular reason why there's only few takes. He'll give you, as Campy said, he'll give you more takes if this focus isn't right, if the light's not right, or if an actor really, insists on it. He doesn't usually find it to be necessary. And in that chapter about acting, Sean Penn, going back to him, was the one who kind of explained it to me in a little more detail. Maybe in a way he explained it better than Clint did himself. He said to me, why doesn't he do more takes? And Sean's take on it was, well, look, I'm an actor. Should I be protective of my best performance over the scene? He said, if my best performance is take 3, and the other guy's best performance is take 9, and the best light was take 15, and the best audio was probably take 2, he said, is it up to me to demand my performance or to go with Clint, he referred to him as a jazz man, to make his piece of jazz? And he said, so if Clint thinks he's got it, he's got it. And his argument was, who can argue with success? So,
yeah, exactly.
That's probably true. And we're going to wind up with Steven. He has to get back to the set of another film.
I'm actually working right now. They graciously let me go for an hour. So
which I really appreciate.
Yeah,
He's working on a film being directed by Jason Bateman right now. But if you have any questions for Steven, you can go ahead and ask him now. Feel free.
Sir.
You confirmed a couple of the efficiency points. I get the idea that you have generally the same staff, the same crew,
right?
Doing the different shots and just doing multiple takes. The two questions I had in terms of efficiency: does he use a light meter with the actors, and does he go like this, not the spooked actors, so they can just kind of go into the moment?
What do you mean by the light meter thing? You mean for?
Yeah, well, I guess it might be with Tom Stern.
Yeah.
Yeah. He put the light meter in their face.
Oh, I see.
Not the introvert.
Right. No, Tom will do it with the stand-ins that we have for the actors and stuff, and all the lighting. Usually, when the actors come to set, we're pretty much lit. We might have to make a tweak depending on how they look and all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty much prepared. Once the actors come to set, it's pretty much set and done. And that's another part of your answer to your question, is that most times on a movie you block first with the actors and everyone watches what's going to happen, what the actors want to do. We do a complete opposite. We read the scene for the day, we figure out what they're going to do, and then when they come in, we tell them, and they go, all right, we're going to go from here to here to here, and then we're already ready, we're pre-lit, we're ready. So it's a very efficient and all that. And I remember on Changeling, when Angelina came in, she's used to, oh, this is what my character's going to do, and we're going to do this, and that. And then Clint is just so gracious, he just goes, well, you know, we got this, we're going to have you come over here and go to the window and sit down. And she's like, yeah, but I was going to do this, and Clint goes, yeah, so we're going to have you come over here and go to the window and so. And he does it in this great way that, again, she just trusts him. We go, well, yeah, why mess with success? The guy knows what he's doing. He's won a bunch of Oscars. And then she just totally got into it. But I could see that first moment of this, and I think everybody does that a little bit with him, and then they just go, yeah, guy knows what he's doing, let's do that. And what was your second part of the question? Was yes, that is true. Yeah, he'll wave his finger, and that's why it's almost like I've heard Bruce Springsteen does that with his bandmates. You got to watch him constantly, and he might change the song on you, he might, change the ending. So it's like Clint, we're always watching him, and he'll do that. He'll just turn his finger like that, and everybody's like ready, and you got to tell the boom guy to get ready and all that kind of stuff, but very silently, because he likes, again, if we're shooting like a scene like this, we'll put the camera here, but we won't tell you we're filming, because then you'll be just more natural. But the minute you feel the camera's on you, you start stiffening up and, oh, I got to pretend I'm talking and do this. So he likes to do that a lot. And he doesn't call action from back in the Western days, because the horses would react to that word. As soon as they heard action, the horses would start stiffening, and the actors would be like, moving off their marks and stuff. So he suggested way back when to his directors, say, look, just don't say action. Just, we'll watch you. Just go like this, or just say now or something. And that's what he does with actors too, because he feels the same way. He says, an actor hears action, you just feel, oh, I got to perform right now, and I got to go. So that's the beauty. He just goes, yeah, go ahead. And the actor's like, all right, I'm going to start right now. And that's the beauty of it. It's just you don't feel all tense and all that. So, and the same with cut. He doesn't say cut because it's such a hard, solid word. He just goes, that's enough of that.
Yeah, I heard him say that.
Yeah, he just, I got enough of this.
That's good, or that's
that's good. Yeah.
And when he started, you go, okay.
Yeah, and it's great because you don't have that real, everyone's ready for action, and it's just so jarring. So again, it's just part of makes the man who he is. He's just really great to work with. It's fantastic.
Anybody else have a question for Steve before he gets back to his set? Well, we appreciate unbelievably you coming by and helping out and having a talk.
Oh, well, I love doing this. I love talking about my boyhood idol. It's like, to me, it's a dream that I'm still doing it, and he's got a bunch more films left in him, so I'm very happy about that. And I can't complain. Life's been good.
Any news? Anything you want to tell?
No, I haven't heard anything. He called the other day, and I was working. We're just working up the streets, which is very fortuitous. But I called him back, so we haven't been able to connect. And that's another one of these cool, weird things. It's like, I got Clint Eastwood's phone number on my phone. It's just like one of these surreal moments. It's just like, wow, look, there's his name right there. It's cool. But yeah, it's been a real dream and a real pleasure working with him all these years. And I've learned so much, and I'm going on to my own directing career, and I've learned so much from him. All these things I'm telling you are all things that I've picked up from him, and that's what I want to bring to the next stage in my own career. Just such a lovely way to work and just create a great environment of just love and support on the set, and no stress, and just hire great people around you. That's what it should be like. It's a very tough business, so why make it even more stressful? Just let's have fun. Yes, sir.
Question?
This may be a little uncomfortable for you to answer, but of all the cameramen he could have chosen 18 years ago, what do you think it was that you had done that had
Well, again, really fast backstory. I did a film with Jack Green in China, 1994, and I knew Jack Green was Clint's cinematographer. So I thought, I'm this close to meeting my boyhood idol. And I thought, if I really work super hard, this was a tough film. We were at 10,000 feet altitude, we were climbing mountains and stuff. I thought, if I work really hard to impress Jack, maybe he'll say something to Clint and I could get that next step, And that's exactly what happened. Worked really hard, it was a very tough job. And basically Jack asked Clint, he says, hey, I got this guy, he's really good, he does Steadicam, A camera, he's a really nice guy, he does great work, you'll like him. Clint's like, having not met me, he says, yeah, sure, great. And then Jack says, well, he's Canadian, he doesn't have his work visa here, And Clint goes, well, he stops. He just imagine the on the phone, and he goes, well, how good is he? And then Jack, and Jack goes, he's really great. You're gonna love him. And basically, this is true. Clint Eastwood signed all my documents to get my work visa here and stuff, and he had lawyers go fast. It was only like a 3-month. Normally it's like years. So literally that all happened, and that was part of the reason I was babbling to him in that cornfield in Iowa. I was like, it's my dream come true to come to the States and make movies and just and work with my boyhood idol. And it's just like, so just the hard work and dedication to answer your question. It was like a goal that I wanted to have, but I never thought could happen. You know, maybe I was dreaming too big, and I just every step was another step closer. And I had 2 other chances to meet him before. Like I put my application in for Unforgiven in '92 because I was living in Vancouver and they were filming in Calgary in Alberta. And it was like an hour flight. And I'm like, oh my God, my idol's an hour away. You know, it was just like this weird thing. And I put my resume in and they told me, they said, well, you don't have enough feature credits. You've got a lot of TV on your resume. And, you know, we want a big feature cameraman. And I was so disappointed and disheartened. I never went to Calgary to go visit the set because I had friends working. Because I was just like, nope, now's not the time. Someday, you know, and who knew if that day was going to happen. But it did 2 years later, which was really great. So I just figured, you know, someday it was going to happen, and it did.
And doesn't that also go to the issue of trust, that you had a relationship with Jack Green? Clint was very close to Jack Green.
Yeah, and trusted his
if Jack
opinion.
said you were good, that was good enough.
Yeah, that was the beauty of it. Yeah, and Jack's one of the nicest men on earth, and he vouched for me, and that was good enough for Clint. And that's, again, you know, if I recommended somebody new to the set, Clint goes, this person really good. I go, yeah, done. You know, no second guesses, no questions, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical. So
yeah.
And there is a beautiful, if you want to know more from Stephen Campanelli, there's stuff in here about him, and beautiful picture of him from Gran Torino.
Really?
If you remember Clint telling those kids to get off his lawn, Stephen's right here with his camera on Clint. Beautiful picture, and in my opinion, that should be as equally iconic a phrase as make my days, get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Again, that was one of those moments, just free for all, when those kids were fighting and all that stuff. It was just like, on a normal movie, you would have a stunt coordinator, you have stunt people, it'd just be like a big McGill. It would take literally a whole day to film. We had no stunt coordinator, no stunt people, just literally a bunch of kids, and Clint goes, hey, just have some fun, wrestle on the grass. And that's what happened. We just had them all wrestle, fly around. I was running around with the Steadicam, getting shots, and doing the same thing, getting different shots at the same time, and then boom, puts it in the movie, and it looks like this big epic battle royale, you know?
Small, low-budget film. Clint Eastwood was the only known actor in the film, you know, in a lead role. The kids in it, I believe, some of them, or maybe the 2 leads, had never been in a film before.
No, never, yeah.
Never even on TV.
Right.
You know, that sort of taking a chance, filming it in what, like a month, 30?
Yeah, it was 30. Was it 34 days? Something like that. Yeah.
Highest grossing Clint Eastwood movie of all time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sort of the point. You know, we have all these blockbusters. Who's making thoughtful dramas? Clint Eastwood, and he's making as much money, or those others, which is important in the studio, creatively important, and the fans love it. So, you know, that's why we have this book, and that's why we had Stephen here today. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Oh, you have a question? Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Do you view the dailies in the old traditional way the next day, or do you review the feedback as it goes along?
That's a great question. Yeah. It's your second half. Yeah, it's to get the feedback. You know, a lot of times we'd go to the next day and watch the dailies and the film days and all that. But on most movies now, we just the editor just tells us he watches on the big screen and he tells us, oh, we got a problem, we got a flare, we got this, we got a hearing aid, or everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. So he doesn't look at the stuff until like the end of the work week, or he might go in one night at the midweek, that kind of thing. But it's not like your traditional, you've got to go see what you shot the day before, which is, I guess, useful, but to me it's like, well, if you know what you're doing, you're going to get the right exposure, you're going to get the right thing. You saw it when you did it. I mean, it's like, I never understood that whole thing. It's like you just have to have the confidence that you got it and just move on. So again, it comes back to him just going, well, I know we got it. I saw what you did and it's perfect, But there's always technical things, there could be a hair in the gate, there could be a lab problem, whatever. So Joel Cox is his right-hand man in terms of seeing the stuff and then letting us know if there was any problems with it. So.
One last question. How does he feel about digital versus film?
We've used a couple of times, like Liz has supplied us with a couple of digital cameras to get in some really quick shots and stuff in his movies and all that. And I had a conversation with him about 2 months ago about that. I think he's gonna maybe eventually embrace it, because it's sad now, like we've switched from Kodak to Fujifilm, and now Fuji's not making film anymore as of December 31st.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's really sad. And then, so I think he's just kind of seeing what we're seeing. It's sad to see it go, but I think we're, I'm not going to, knock on wood, but probably go with the Alexas, I think, because we had a conversation about it. And to me, it's one of my favorite digital cameras right now. But
and you guys have tested them, right?
Yes, yeah, he did. Yeah, he saw some tests on it, and I'm filming with them right now, and they're fantastic cameras. So I think he'll embrace them too, because you can get that film look now. It's come a long way, I think, and there's a lot of great movies out there right now that are all shot digitally, and you know, I mean, with the digital projection too in a lot of the theaters now too, it's still having that digital look, so you might as well just go all the way. So I'll be sad to see it go for sure, definitely. It's really, you know, the smell, the feel, you know, just changing the mag. It's just, it's gonna be really tough to never do that again. So,
Well,
yes.
Invite Lori to step up.
Yeah. We have Laurie McCreary. She's the producer of Invictus that we did, and so it's a fabulous film. So I just wanted to thank her for coming tonight. She's right there, Laurie.
Come up and say a couple words.
She doesn't do that. But yeah, that was a great experience. That was like, what a great experience. A great movie. Oh, it was amazing. It was just a great experience to go to South Africa and just film with such great actors. And I thought Morgan Freeman did, you know, such an amazing job. It was so cool. And that's another Clint moment. Real quick, I don't have to go. We're doing this shot of Matt Damon and Clint and Morgan Freeman in Mandela's office, and we have this little tracking shot. It's just this long conversation, and I think he did a little like the Bridges. He let it go for a while, and there was these chairs way in the background, and we had a bit of time. And I was telling the set dress, I said the chairs were touching, the backs were touching, and I said, can you just separate them a little because it looks nice, a little nicer aesthetically. And when I said that, we still had time. We weren't rushing, and he goes, "Why are you moving the chairs?" And I said, well, I just aesthetically make it look. And you know, Morgan and Matt were just sitting in front of my camera, waiting till we were ready. And he goes, well, why you would move? I said, well, I just. He goes, you have Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon in the front. Who's going to be looking at the two chairs in the background? And I went, again, just another brilliant. I go, yeah, you're right. Leave the chairs. You know.
Good point.
Yeah, and it's another one of these great stories. Just like it's all true. You know, he sees everything. You know, it's pretty amazing. It's just to watch him work and just what he picks up and some of the stories that you said about with the acting thing. It just the forethought that goes into it is pretty incredible. You know.
And there's a lot more in there. So
anyways, yeah, I got to run before I get fired. So
don't get fired.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Good to see you. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
So Laurie skipped the party and drove all the way from Malibu to see you. She just